876 Dream. Bless up.
History, history, history. A team that scored 2 goals in their last 6 games went on to score 2 goals in the space of 31 minutes. Ecuador, the first winners in the 2022 edition of the greatest show on earth in Qatar. Enna Valencia, a landmark occasion for him. Not only Ecuador's leading goal scorer in World Cup history, but the 2,550th goal in World Cup history, his second in that particular game. Ecuador's first win in a World Cup to kick off their campaign since 2014 against Honduras. For the hosts, disappointment, disappointment, disappointment for them. The 80th team to feature in the greatest of a showpiece in football, unable to get on the score sheet and also not living up to the tag of a host nation going unbeaten in their first game of a World Cup. Records galore, a lot to break down. This is Now Streaming Qatar. So, Ecuador defeating Qatar by 2-0 in the opening game of the 2022 edition of the greatest show on earth. It's 3 points in the bag for them, and they comfortably move on to their next assignment, with knowing that another victory could very well put them in the driver's seat towards the round of 16 of the competition. So we're joined by our panelists once again, Kadish Fishley and Stefan Hausen. Kadish, let me start with you. A comfortable victory for the South Americans?
It was very comfortable. I don't think Qatar really managed to break them down consistently. They had one or two opportunities that they couldn't capitalize on. They didn't do much in terms of the game. For me, it's not the game that I was expecting. I was expecting a much harder game, a more tighter game, but that wasn't the workout. I think both of you said that it would be a 2-1 victory to either side, so that didn't pan out any at all. So yeah, Qatar was disappointing. Ecuador they were very good. They seemed to have a lot of energy because they ran Qatar ragged at times. So yeah.
And for you, Stefan, deserved victory, the way that they dominated possession and the chances as a whole?
Yeah, definitely deserved. I'm glad you kind of pushed me to come off the fence and pick a winner, because I didn't get the score, but I got the result. As I said, Ecuador, exciting young team, full of energy. There's some technical players out there that's worth watching, and I think they showed up today. On the flip side, Qatar, it looked like the occasion got to them. They started off pretty shaky. Their goalkeeper, who's supposed to be their talismans for the team, dropping a ball early. Put them under pressure, giving up a penalty a little bit later than that. It wasn't the right way to start off a World Cup, and they suffered for it.
Yes, indeed. And just a reminder to the viewers as well that you can also get involved as well within the discussion as well. You can leave your comments right here on the stream that you're watching on 876 Stream. Don't forget to subscribe to 876 Stream Jamaica for all the latest coverage and previews, reviews throughout the course of the World Cup itself. And also on Instagram as well, 876 Stream, and on Twitter, Stream876, and you can use the hashtag full-time stream. We also have the super chat and super stickers and super thanks features available as well, so if you want your question or comment highlighted toward our panelists, you're more than welcome to do so as well. Alex Taylor jumping into the comments says, baby side at Qatar, well played Ecuador. So it's interesting the feedback that we're getting quite early on in terms of this proceedings. Stefan, from the Qatar perspective, a lot of people would have been disappointed with the performance. Is it, bearing in mind Asian champions, they did well at Copa and also not bad at the Gold Cup as well. Was it nerves being on the global stage or just completely outclassed?
Yeah, that we'll have to ask the coach. He's the one that will best know what happened. But as I said in the pre-show, Qatar have gone to tournaments and they've not embarrassed themselves. That first 45 minutes is probably the worst I've seen them play in any tournament. It frankly was quite embarrassing. The 2-0 scoreline at the half was probably flattering for them. They could have really gotten a run right. The second half, I thought they came into their own. It was the type of game I expected more in the second half. It was a little bit more cagey. Possession kind of evened out. The chances weren't coming as free-flowing for Ecuador. And Qatar managed to get forward a little bit more. But overall, disappointing performance for them, you know. Nerves, probably. As I said, they started off very shaky. The goalkeeper dropping that ball set the tone for them. And it took them a long time to recover.
Yeah, it certainly did, and you saw the chances. You know, that was quite limited from their standpoint. Kadish, it's one game down, 2 games to go. Their next assignment, a tough one against Senegal. Are they still in it, or it's a tough ask from here to come through? Bearing in mind they have the Dutch to play, and also Senegal as well.
Well, I think based on who's left for them to play, it's going to be a tough ask for them. This game that I remember watching the game and I was saying, this is the team that you guys said was defensively sound, because they were just all over the place in my opinion. They weren't keeping their shape most of the time. So, this was the game that they needed to get a point from to have a realistic chance of progressing to the next step if they were to do so. Senegal, Netherlands left. I don't see them going forward.
All right, quite interesting there. Former Jamaica cricket Ray Stewart comes in the comments and says, "Look like a bag of nerves at the start from the Qatari team." Interesting observation there. Stefan, we spoke earlier about from the Qatari perspective, but from Ecuador, it's 3 points a bag. It's job done, and it's on to the next one in a sense.
Yeah, previously we did say, second spot in this group is up for grabs, so getting the points in this game is integral to going forward, whether you're Qatar, whether you're Ecuador. And Ecuador have gotten a platform to build upon now. They play the Dutch next. That's going to be a tough one for them. Most times 4 points gets you out of the group, so they have 3 already. So if something goes well for them against Holland, they might be sitting pretty.
And just staying with you, Stefan, maybe some persons might overthink it a bit, but do you think that Ecuador might be looking to themselves and saying, what's happening over in Group B tomorrow? Should we finish second? Should we finish first in the group? Or for now, it's just let's get out of the group and whatever happens from there, we take it from there.
My mindset is always play the game in front of you. So they had the game today. That should be their main focus. The next game is against Holland. You focus on that. Let's not even start thinking about the round of 16 or anything like that. But as I said, they have the platform to build upon now, and it's just for them to go and execute it.
Kadish, same for you as well?
Yeah, it's the same. Just think about what the next game. The next game is very important. It determines whether or not you have an idea of going forward. So let's think about the next game, and when the next game comes, we think about the game after that, and then we think about the round of 16.
Yes, indeed. So we've had 1 game down, another 63 left in this football carnival at the greatest show on earth. This was the only game of the day, and we're breaking it down with Stefan and Kadish, and we certainly have a little bit more to dissect and also have a slight look ahead of what is to come tomorrow. And later in the show, we'll also look at groups E to H as well, so that you all can get a breakdown of which teams are in each group as well, and perhaps also the thoughts and expectations of our analysts for the other teams that we have as well. And just a reminder as well, thank you so much for joining us on this coverage. Really, really appreciate it. Do share this link with a friend. We really, really appreciate it. And just a reminder that tomorrow we start with our pre-game show at 7:15 a.m. and our post-game show at 4 o'clock. Today was the only day that we started at 10 o'clock, as it was an 11 a.m. kickoff Jamaica time. So that was the reason for that in particular. But all the way through the group stages of the competition, we'll continue with that 7:15 a.m. for pre-game show, and of course the 4 p.m. kickoff for the the post-game show, that is. So, Kadish, 1 game in the bag. Did it meet your expectations in terms of the quality that we've seen in the tournament?
It didn't meet my expectations. I was expecting a much more exciting game. It's just one of those games where you have it on in the background and you listen and you look up when when the commentator says something exciting. It was just one of those games. It's not a game that kept you on the edge of your seat. So for an opening match, it was disappointing.
Stefan, in recent tournaments, we were blessed with like a Brazil opening a tournament 2014 and so on. We saw with the flair that South Africa brought 2010, but was it lukewarm, this sort of World Cup debut, the first game?
Like I said to you, I don't know if it's because it's day one, but I'm excited. And, I thought it was a good game. I enjoyed the game. maybe because I do have a little stock in the Ecuador team, so I want to see those young players impress, and they certainly did today. A number of them looked quite interesting. So I enjoyed the game. Hopefully the excitement levels continue to raise as the tournament progresses. As you said, it's not Brazil, it's not a France starting the tournament off. It's Qatar and Ecuador. We're aware of the stature of these clubs. No disrespect these teams. Sorry, no disrespect intended to them. But yeah, good start from me. Day one is down, and we look forward to the carnival, as you call it.
Yeah, you spoke about the opportunity that you had to see Valencia play in the CONCACAF Champions League quite recently. I just wanted to jog back, the memories that you had of him versus now, if it's the same player, slightly different, or basically a different sort of player in a sense.
I mean, he's definitely older, and I said that he'd bring that experience. But in regards to the player I saw up close, as I said, he was a demon on the field. He never stopped running, and you can still see he has that aspect to his game. Very fit player. He was all over the place. One thing that always stood out to me, even going back before I saw him up close with Toronto FC, he's a small stature guy, but he does have a leap on him. He gets up in the air, and he demonstrated that for the second goal. Perfect header into the bottom corner, and all we can do is praise him for that. Almost had a hat trick. Probably should have had a hat trick. We'll debate the rules, but great start for him.
Kadish, that's quote unquote opener. VAR came into play, offside, right decision in the end. Seeing the replay,
I still don't know why it was called offside. I think I understand the rules a lot. I'm usually one of those persons. Once VAR gets involved and I see it, I would say, "Oh yeah, man, VAR gets it right." I still don't understand the reasoning behind it being called offside.
I mean, we've seen football evolve so much. Do you prefer the human error element, or you're okay with the technology?
No, I'm okay with the technology. It's just the humans who are using the technology. That's the problem. The technology is there for a reason. I mean, you would have wanted the technology back.
2010.
It's 2010, the
Yes,
England
Lampard,
yeah.
It's ingrained into memory. He knows exactly what it is.
Right, so we would have loved the
Exactly.
technology then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, technology is great, but if it's not being used properly, then it's not good, basically. And I think that I really need to get the explanation as to why that was offside.
I mean, Stefan, we've seen all across Europe, the use of this technology and so much of decisions we've talked about time and time again. When you look at you could look at a replay 10, 15 times, and sometimes you have to question yourself, are we going to really be marginal about a toenail, a fingernail, about certain decisions? Yeah. So it can be subjective still at the end of the day.
I mean, if we bring in technology and we say that offside is one of those definitive things, it's either is or isn't, we're going to be debating toenails and fingernails. That is just the fact of the matter. I've said in the past, I'm not necessarily for VAR. It is here. I think what fans and coaches and players need to do is understand the field it operates in, and sometimes you're gonna get calls wrong, sometimes you're gonna get calls right. It's just a part of the game. We chastise VAR for taking away the human element of it. It really hasn't. There's still a human element. There's still mistakes, depending on how you look at it. It's just you're probably getting a mistake that you don't really want to see.
So Qatar, they join the long list of teams that have been to a World Cup and have not scored a goal just yet. Yes, they have another 2 more games to go, but Canada back in 1986, they didn't score a goal at a World Cup. That should change this time around. China 2002, they didn't score a goal at a World Cup. Indonesia, Trinidad and Tobago 2006 didn't score a goal, and Democratic Republic of the Congo, Qatar joins that list. So that's 6 teams, but that could all change in a matter of days with Qatar still having games to go, and of course Canada as well. Just to get through a couple of comments in the comment section for you guys as well. Andrew Johnson saying Qatar team was poor, wasted chances. A better team would have given Ecuador more trouble. Alex Taylor says the rule is once the goalkeeper leaves his line, the last defender assumes the goalkeeping position. Interesting. Yes, but an interesting point there made by Andrew in relation to the Ecuadorian team, Stefan. Tougher tests lie ahead, especially when you have the Dutch to come and, of course, the Senegalese outfit, African champions.
Yeah, no, for sure. As that's why we said this game is going to be integral for either Qatar or Ecuador to progress. You have to get the 3 points here. Ecuador have got it, and they move on to tougher tests for sure. How will they stand up to them? that remains to be seen. But if you're an Ecuador fan right now, you're going to be celebrating tonight. You're going to be looking ahead with some optimism. You have a young, vibrant, fit team. You know, in these situations, anything can happen.
And I'm sure perhaps blemish for the Ecuadorian team, Kadish, is of course we saw Enner Valencia coming off. Didn't have a grimace on his face, but still a reason out for concern.
Yeah, and I think they did the right thing in taking him off when they did. You know, some players would have wanted to stay on and get the hat trick. But you know, in our hearts, he got the hat trick. But he didn't seem to be that bad at the end of the game. I guess we'll know more in the coming days. Hopefully, he's fit again for their next game, and hopefully he'll continue scoring. This Ecuador team was fun to watch. They had some combination plays that were very good, and they exploited the wings very well as well. So I would love to see him come back and continue to watch this Ecuadorian team.
Yes, this Ecuadorian team ranked 44th in the world, quite known for their development of and belief in youth as well. A team that did so well at the Under-20 World Cup back in 2019 as well, and we've seen as well the emergence of Caicedo and company being in the mix as well. And just a reminder for the Ecuadorian team, they're next in action against the Dutch, 3-time World Cup finalist. That comes your way November 25. And for Qatar, their next game is against Senegal, also on November 25 as well. So a lot could be determined by the time that fixture comes around on Friday. These games just come quick and fast. We're used to perhaps 3 games a day during World Cup, you know, starting Tuesday, 4 games, so a lot more to digest. So folks, like I said, stay tuned. Ensure that you're subscribed to 876 Stream JA right here on YouTube to get the latest of everything pre-game show and also review show throughout the course of the World Cup itself. Of course, follow all the updates as well on the Instagram page, that is 876 Stream. You will also get some tidbits, some did you know facts, especially a Jamaican angle to it as well, how Jamaican did in previous tournaments as well. Our technical team is working on those graphics and ensuring that you guys get to see quite clearly as well, so you guys will see that in the coming days of latest information in the tournament as well. We'll also touch on quite lately in later in the show in relation to the different groups E to H, and go a little bit more in depth in terms of the injuries of players of other teams. And finally, we will look ahead into the 3 games that are on for tomorrow. And those are our 3 massive games to look forward to. Group B takes center stage, and also the second game from Group A, which of course is the Netherlands taking on Senegal. So, lady and gentlemen, let's continue with our discussion as we wrap things up in this game, Qatar against Ecuador. We're looking ahead towards the other groups that lie ahead. We looked at groups A to D, and we're shortly you're gonna see on your screen Group E, and it is quite a compelling group when you look in the grand scheme of things. And like I've said before, in terms of the groups as a whole, a lot of teams, they've faced each other at previous tournaments or quite recently, so it's quite a compelling one. And to tell you what Group E is all about, you have 2010 winners Spain, Germany 4-time winners, Costa Rica, who is known for 1 and 2 shocks down the road, and the industrious Japanese outfit. Kadish, your thoughts about the group generally speaking, Group E?
Exciting group to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I know Spain hasn't been the usual Spain, but they're still an exciting young team to watch. I'm very surprised with the number of young players that Luis Enrique has brought in. You know, opting to leave some of his more experienced players, of course, you know, who I'm going to mention, Mr. Sergio Ramos. So Germany is another interesting team, and when we talk about players missing, we're going to talk about Timo Werner. He's not there, and he's always prolific in a German shirt, not so much a Chelsea shirt. So that's one. Japan has always been an exciting team to watch. In the last World Cup, I think they played in one of the best games in that World Cup versus Belgium, and that was last minute winner from last minute winner, right? So was it Lukaku?
No, it was he skipped the ball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it was Chadley. Yeah. All right, and of course Costa Rica. Always Costa Rica is one of my favorites from CONCACAF.
Really?
Not a hater for them. They're one of my favorite CONCACAF teams to watch, and so I'm looking forward to Group E being kicked off.
Yeah.
Stefan, if I had to ask you, the young player to watch in the tournament. Some might say Pedri, some might say Jude Bellingham. Spain has some interesting gems. It's not the David Villa era and company, but there's some decent youngsters that we saw a glimpse at the Euros, but could actually, if they click, could be something special.
No, yeah, for sure. We spoke about players to watch at this tournament, and one who I think is going to be actually quite fundamental for Spain is young Ansu Fati from Barcelona. He would have been at the Euros last time. It was not for injury. And when you look at the Spain team, what is it they've been lacking? It's goals. And he's a goal scorer. So if he's in form, the thing with him, the fitness over the last year has been pretty pitchy patchy. So if he's clicking, he's a guy that can get the goals, and he can be that difference maker for them.
Indeed, we've spoken as well about some of the old guard being part of the squad as well. Sergio Busquets, the World Cup winner back in 2010, Azpilicueta still part of the unit as well. A couple of new pieces added into the mix as well, and for some it's still difficult to take in, but Laporte is wearing a Spanish shirt. We saw him play for France as well against Jamaica in an under-17 World Cup in a French jersey, and just to see him in a Spanish jersey as well.
Yeah, I remember that. Our friend played on that Jamaica team.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's true. People, the likes of Omar Holness, Zalana Barnes, Andre Lewis actually ran past Laporte at the under-17 World Cup. Yeah, this was 11 years ago, and you see what time does. Yeah, but one was in a youth academy doing things, and the other, not a lot of playing time at his club. So that tells you the story at the end of the day. High school football, club football, but that's for another day. But let's look at the Germans now, starting with you, Kadish. The German team, the Euros, disappointing, yes, but when the pedigree, the reputation that they always bring, it's not somebody you can turn a blind eye to.
They're not, and what I liked about Germany is that the name for the previous Joachim Low. Yeah. When he realized that, and I think they came to an agreement that he couldn't take this German team any further, and he stepped aside, and it's now Hansi Flick, right? It's now Hansi Flick, and he's brought some new ideas to the German team, and they have been playing better. It could be much better, but it's better than what they've been previously. So I'm expecting this German team to come out, and we should see a good display from them. The only disappointing thing I have about them is that Werner will not be there, because I think he, as I said, in a German shirt, he's one of the best players in the world.
But there's Kai Havertz, so you have a bit of Chelsea representation. A bit.
I mean, yes. Havertz as well. He's a better player in a German shirt. Then I don't see, it's not the same Havertz when he plays for Chelsea, but he's very prolific when it comes to Germany. So it should be a good. It's a good squad, and I see them going far. And I said it's one of my 4 teams to go all the way.
Okay, Stefan Moukoko and company. Is he the one to look out for the Germans? We saw him at Dortmund and what he can do, but now in a German shirt, is he the one that we can look out for?
Similar situation to Spain and Ansu Fati. Germany, maybe they do lack a bit of goals. Moukoko's a goal scorer as well. 17 years old, that's a lot of pressure to put on him though to find and deliver those goals. But it's an interesting unit on a whole. I do like both the Spanish and the German teams. The Germans in particular, Kadish did mention Timo Werner is out, and a lot of people will be like, oh, that's not a big miss. But if you do pay attention to German football, since Flick has been in charge, I don't think anyone's played more minutes than Werner, and he's in the top 2 for goals and assists for that team. So him being there is a big miss. Let's not kid ourselves. It's gonna see some shuffling, and that's why we see the likes of Moukoko coming in, getting their chance. Can he deliver and put the ball in the back of the net at this level? That's a tough ask for a 17-year-old.
Actually, man, and another player that is building that excitement and a lot of word in the press is Jamal Musiala.
Exactly. That's the key catalyst for them, I think. He's the star boy of this German team. He went to the Euros, and I thought he impressed a lot of people. I think everyone knows he's a gem. But when he went to the Euros, he really stood out. He took the German team on his shoulders, and he pushed them up. He's developed more since then. He's having a fantastic season for Bayern Munich, a ton of goals and assists. He can bring that into this tournament. Germany can cause some upsets.
And Kadishi was also at Chelsea, but Bayern Munich. It's not to
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know. It's something that Chelsea is known for. We have so many top players who've passed through Chelsea's doors. So I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those what if, what could have been.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in terms of representation by club, Chelsea has 12 players that are at the World Cup. Bayern Munich is the most represented club at this World Cup, 17 players. Next in line, Manchester City, 16 players. Barcelona also with 16 players. Al Sadd, which is the Qatari club, they have 15 players. Manchester United, 14 players at this World Cup. Chelsea, 13. Real Madrid has 13 players. Al Hilal out of Saudi Arabia, 12. And 11 players are Tottenham, PSG, Borussia Dortmund, Ajax, Juventus. So good representation there as well. So especially for the English clubs as well, they certainly are bringing out talents that are going on to represent their country and making squads for major tournaments. So we looked at the Spanish and the Germans. You said you're not a Costa Rica hater. They're known for pulling one out of the bag every now and again.
Right. Always looking forward to see them play. Keylor Navas has always been instrumental in how well his team performs. So I haven't seen him play in a little while. I probably missed a couple of games, but I'm looking forward to see Costa Rica play. Hopefully, they can be an upset somewhere. Not hopefully, just to liven up the group a bit.
That's what you want to see. Okay.
Yeah, just liven up the group.
Okay. To beat Japan or beat like Spain or Germany?
I mean, I'll take a one love versus Spain.
Yeah.
You left Sergio Ramos.
Yeah. I would take that. I wouldn't mind that at all. And Stefan, the Japanese as well, very, very efficient. They might not be up there as a favorite, but, you're going to have to work hard if you want those points.
I mean, Simon, this is the group. When we speak of a group of death, this is the group right now. I think it's very interesting. Yeah, Spain and Germany are the favorites, but you can't discount Costa Rica. They usually put on a good show at these tournaments. And Japan, I don't know, as I said, I don't know if it goes back to that early memory of me watching them get beaten in grade 4. But since then, I've always been a big fan of the Japanese football team. I remember I used to watch the J League on Fox Sports back in the day on a Friday. They play football the way football is supposed to be played. Very interesting team, very technical. And as we said, the last World Cup, they did go very close to causing one of the biggest upsets. They arguably should have beaten that Belgium team. They just fell asleep at the end, and Belgium capitalized on it. But yeah, it's a good group. I wouldn't be surprised to see Costa Rica or Japan take some points off of them.
Yeah, interesting days we had. It's quite a compelling case with Japan because of how they seesaw in World Cups. 98 group stage exit, 2002 round of 16. 06 group stage, 2010 round of 16, 2014 group stage, 2018 round of 16. So if you follow that logic, 2022 means group stage. but
let's hope it's not as simple as that.
Exactly. Let's head over now to Group F, and a quite compelling group. Some people say one of the tournament favorites are in this group, despite a backline that might be getting on in years, but quite shortly you'll be able to see on your screen as it relates to that Group F in particular. A team from CONCACAF, 2 from UEFA, and 1 from the African continent. Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. Stefan said that Group E looked like the group of death. Kadish, I think this one is. What says you?
I think this group is very competitive. I looked at it and I was like, it's hard to pick 2 from this group to say, definitely going through. I mean, Belgium is on and off most days. Croatia has been good, but they have an aging squad, and so that might be a factor. Morocco they have gotten some young people in, some young talents in, and they can do something here. What's the next team? It's Canada.
Yeah,
Canada, of course.
Morocco, yeah.
Canada.
Yes,
Okay.
Let's go CONCACAF.
Right, and I mean Canada, they've improved over the years. They've developed. I think some of their players playing in the European leagues have helped the team tremendously. So this is one of those groups that you cannot decide on who the top 2 is going to be. It's going to be hard. It can be any of those 4.
I mean, Stefan, you were in Canada when they started to restart and re-implement and re-change the program. Did you see anything different that said, we really have to keep a close eye on this team because they're doing the right things?
I mean, the Canadians' approach to football since I would say even before I got there, because I got there in 2016. They've really done a lot to push grassroots development in football. I did work at Toronto FC. I was in the training center, and I did see like just their youth setup coming through. I saw some of the most professional kids I've ever seen in my life. Most of them won't ever become professional footballers, but their approach to it, their approach to training was actually quite interesting. They took it very serious. They all went in there with a goal. Yeah, they're kids, they're going to have fun, they're going to have their little laughs, but they knew that when it was time to play football or soccer, they turned it on, and they were very focused, and I'm not surprised to see that go across the entire country. Vancouver, Montreal, all of them, they've really put a big emphasis on developing football, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor.
And to further his point, I'm a big proponent of the women's game.
Yeah.
You see it being brought forward in the women's team as well. Olympic gold medal winners.
John Hurdle was actually the previous on the women's side as well. I think he came over.
That's right.
That is
John
right,
Hurdle.
Right. And second place in the CONCACAF.
Championship.
And I think it's just the experience of the US team that actually beat them. And so you have these top players from Canada that's playing all over the world. So that focus on grassroots, that has helped the Canadian men's team and the Canadian women's team. And I'm just hoping that someday we can have that focus here where it
If
develops.
anyone from JFF wants to get contact with me, I can set them up with some TFC guys. We can send them over there. We can give some lessons. Just show me.
Yeah, guys, just WhatsApp Stefan. It's not hard. But yeah, Canada will come into this tournament, with a few tidbits in their favour. Atiba Hutchinson, one of their most veteran players, he's actually the oldest outfield player at this tournament. 39 years old, and 285 days old. So the oldest outfield player in this tournament. And this Canadian team, did you know that 5 of them are born to Jamaican parents? 5 players. So Kamal Miller, defender. Derek Cornelius, also a defender as well. Junior Hoylett, who was this close to representing Jamaica. Tajan Buchanan and Kyle Lauren, they're Canada's all-time leading goal scorer. If you look at the tournament as a whole, there are 24 players in the entire World Cup, with players who were born to Jamaican parents or grandparents that are representing other teams in the World Cup, and they comprise teams like the United States, Canada, England, the Netherlands, Costa Rica, and Spain, and one from Wales. So quite a diverse team. So even though Jamaica might not be there, and certainly
I saw a video where they asked what the 11 would be if of English-based players, and I saw the 11 that Jamaica could possibly have. Oh my God! Kyle Walker. Ivan Toney, we do have Mikel Antonio.
But
who was it? I don't think it was Rashford. It was another. I don't remember.
Simon can tell you all of
I don't remember which winger it was, but it was a winger who plays for England, of course.
He's in the World Cup squad?
Oh, Sterling.
Of course,
Sterling.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you can imagine.
Sterling, right. And Mason Holgate, all these players with Jamaican heritage. So that's interesting. That was very interesting to me.
Yeah, if you want to look at the England squad, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, those are 2 right there with some Jamaican heritage. Callum Wilson, Raheem Sterling, we know, was born on the island already. And Marcus Rashford, I know many people might say St. Kitts. Yes, that's his mother's side, but let's not forget people. We need a mother and a father. So yes, his father's side, Robert Rashford, was actually born on the island. So yes, that's where the Jamaican heritage lies, where he's concerned. On the United States side of things, their understudy in goal, Sean Johnson, born to Jamaican parents, even was part of Jamaica's under-17 and under-20 setup, but wasn't selected. No, he wasn't selected. And look at him today. Top goalkeeper in MLS and now at a World Cup with the United States. Esteban Brown from Costa Rica, and I know you guys might say Costa Rica. Well, the story is like this. A lot of Jamaicans left the island to go and build the Panama Canal, and shortly after building the Panama Canal, many of them decided to settle west, and west was Costa Rica. Build homes, had families, so a lot of persons that you see with the last name Brown, William, Edwards over there. Yep, those are individuals. Joel Campbell. Those are individuals with Jamaican heritage. So that's the reason why so many tailors. And perhaps, and as you can see on your screen right there, that's what an 11 would look like at this World Cup in terms of players that have Jamaican heritage right now, in terms of players that are at the World Cup, a potential 11 right now on your screen, and I'm sure you guys see Marcus Rashford right there on your screen up top. Certainly a lot of attack to call upon when you're bearing in mind Raheem Sterling, Tim Weah, who, as you know, his father was the Ballon d'Or winner with George Weah, and of course his mother born on the island. Brennan Johnson, his father actually played for the Reggae Boys, David Johnson, and Manchester United as well. So Brennan Johnson playing for Wales, the country of his birth and his mother's birth. Joel Campbell, Junior Highlight, Tajan Buchanan, Kyle Lawrence. So you could take your pick. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. Would you have Marcus Rashford as the number 9? Would it be someone else? Would it be Callum Wilson? You can give us your thoughts there. Would you go with a back 3? Would you go with a back 4? You guys have options there. In goal, would you go with Sean Johnson, Esteban Brown, or Robert Sanchez from Spain? Which one of those 3s would you go with? So let us know your thoughts. But just to show you the wide array of talent that is available to us, and if calls are made and passports are given, then we could have had a different conversation right now.
Yeah.
You never know. So let's make 2026 a reality. I know you guys are watching. So we've dissected groups E. We slightly looked at F, and when we're talking about Canada, we slightly went on a tangent there. But Stefan, personally, from a Belgium perspective, I see goals, but defensively, as you and I touched on quite earlier, with Tongan, Alderweireld and company, there is some concern at the back.
Yeah, for sure. I forgot to mention, we mentioned Mexico earlier. We said Ochoa was in goal. When I realized it, I was like, how is this guy still playing for Mexico? It's pretty much the same sentiment for Belgium's back line. When I see them line up and I get to the defense, I'm like, how is this guy still playing for Belgium? Like, it should have been his time. He should be watching this at home, happy in retirement. But, it's what's working for them, I guess, or it's what's available to them. I'm not sure. But, yeah, when you look at Belgium and Croatia in this group, I think going back to 2018, that was the peak of both of those teams. Belgium went quite far, then lost to the eventual champions, and then Croatia was in the final. Croatia's actually who I had picked as the outside bet to win that World Cup. So I was kind of close, but yeah, it didn't quite happen for them. And I think since then, both are still good teams, but they are not what they used to be 4 years ago. So that probably makes the group a little bit more interesting. I'm probably saying that from a hopeful Canadian perspective, but we shall see how it goes.
I mean, you are a goalkeeper and you played as a goalkeeper during your time in school and also beyond that. Is Courtois still that same Courtois that we saw, previous World Cup to know?
I would say he's better. I think he's probably arguably in the conversation for the best goalkeeper in the world right now. Since leaving Chelsea, that first initial 6 months at Real Madrid probably was a little bit rockier than he expected. But once he found his groove, he has not looked back. We saw him last year in the Champions League. Let's not make it anything else. Benzema was great in the Champions League, but Real Madrid won the Champions League because of Courtois. Let's be real. His performance in the final was incredible. His performance in the rounds leading up to that was incredible. So there's nothing to be worried about from a defensive position if you were looking at just the goalkeeper. It's just the guys in front of him. How much work are they going to give him? And the less work, the better, obviously. But they do have some trusted hands behind the back line.
Certainly, well said there. And Kadish, we've looked at the Canadian team, the Belgian team. Stefan touched briefly on the Croatian team. That midfield, the amount of options they have available to them, it's endless, and it really allows for them to create a lot of chances.
Yeah, it does. They've always been blessed with that position. The midfield, Kovacic, Modric, the two of the best midfielders currently playing right now, in my opinion. But I think something that I touched on earlier when we spoke about the teams like who won it and then crashed out, it's about that transition. And again, Croatia has failed there. Belgium hasn't really brought in anything new because I think Thomas Vermaelen has been called up by Belgium. Am I right?
I'm not sure actually.
For some reason, I swore I saw him, and I had the same reaction as you.
I think Vertonghen for sure is there. I'm not sure about Vermaelen.
Well, probably Vertonghen. Probably Vertonghen was the one I saw, and I was like, how is he still being called up?
Yeah.
And so it's about that when you have a team that was as good as Belgium was back then, or was as good as Croatia was, the focus then is how do we continue to build on that team while obviously aging out the older players, and they haven't done that.
Yeah.
So, which is one of the reasons that makes this group so open. If it was 2018 Belgium and Croatia, would have said, "Oh, Belgium, Croatia going
done
to."
and dusted.
Yeah, no question about it.
Compelling times ahead. Let's now head over to Group G now, which has everybody's in Jamaica's favorite team, Samba Kings, 5-time winners, Brazil, Brasileiro. They have a few teams that they've had in previous groups as well. Again, a group that was close and so similar to the last World Cup. In the last World Cup, Brazil had in their group the Swiss, Serbia, and in addition to them, they had Costa Rica. This group, just one minor change, just one small change. It's still Switzerland, it's still Serbia, but Cameroon is in the picture. The indomitable lions of Africa, Cameroon, are in this picture. Kadish, Brazil is one of your 4, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And for you personally, would you say they're number 1 out of that 4, or they're just somewhere in the middle?
I'm not choosing them. They're just one of the top teams. I think they're one of the top teams. They've had a good squad. I think they've transitioned from the older players to the younger players quite well. So yeah, definitely. They're coming out of the group, and if I should follow Samuel Eto'o's logic,
I was about to say. I was about to say, why are we even discussing this? Eto'o has made it clear that Cameroon is winning the World Cup.
Wow.
He has made it very clear that that's his pick. Clear. It's going to be a Cameroon versus Morocco final, and we're going to have an African champion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Don't know what they're smoking down in Cameroon.
I wonder what he was doing in that Jamaica game versus Cameroon quite recently.
Maybe pulling teeth. Pulling teeth for sure.
But yeah, in this group, it's Brazil going through, and then it's a toss-up for second place. Because Serbia can do something, Switzerland can do something. Cameroon is there.
They're making up the numbers.
Oh no.
Yeah, but Stefan, as an, I don't want to say if you're an avid Arsenal fan, but as a supporter, having Gabriel Martinelli in the mix, I think he deserves the opportunity.
I think Martinelli, I mean, there was some craze back in the previous squads, in the friendlies, the last friendlies, and he wasn't named. A lot of fans started saying, oh wait, why would you ever think he was ever going to get selected? And I was just like, he's probably going to be in the final squad without a question.
Wow.
And he's there. I think he's exciting. It's very interesting because if it's one thing Brazil do not lack, it's wide attacking players. If you think about it, Neymar is likely going to operate in a position that Martinelli would hope to see some minutes in. So there's lots of options there. If you're a Brazil fan, I don't think you're really concerned about who is playing in the attack outside of Neymar. It's who's playing in defense, because we mentioned players who are playing for Belgium and thinking, wow, they're still there. Dani Alves is still in the Brazil squad. Yeah. I was surprised you said that Thibaut Hutchinson was the oldest guy in the World Cup. It's not Dani Alves. We need to check that passport.
Thiago Silva. It's not Thiago Silva.
Thiago Silva's there as well.
Yeah.
It's a defense filled with experience, but there are some holes there, especially in the wing back positions for me. Because regardless of if it's Dani Alves or Danilo or Alex Telles on the left, that's a problem area. I do think Brazil are one of the favorites, but I'm not as avid a supporter of them as the rest of Jamaica seems to be.
Yeah, Gabriel Martinelli, quite a compelling story for him. He was actually at Manchester United and was told he was a surplus to requirements when you have Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, James Wilson, and look at him right now, heading to a World Cup. Good for him indeed. And finally, we head on now to Group H, another group with a lot of teams that have played each other before. It's like, honestly, when I saw the group, Stefan, I just figured, did they just shuffle the balls twice and that was it? Or should they just reshuffle it again because of so much similarities we've seen in previous World Cups? Yeah, it's quite a compelling case, but we'll have it on your screen quite shortly as we get through a team that has won the World Cup twice, not in a number of decades. That's Uruguay. Portugal, their best run back in '66, where they finished third. Ghana, quarterfinalists back in 2010 rather, and finally South Korea, a team that finished fourth as co-hosts in 2002. Now, with what we've seen recently, Stefan, and I'm sure you would have seen, the interview that Cristiano Ronaldo gave and everything of that nature. Physically, he says he's ready. But mentally, would that be at the back of his mind, knowing that he has a World Cup on the rise? And many people would say, is this going to be a focus on the World Cup or a distraction for the World Cup? Because he's going to keep reminded about it by the press and everybody around him. Teammates, it's going to be compelling to see how he manages that situation.
I think when you think of a player like Ronaldo, he's an egomaniac. So I don't think it's going to bother him at all. He's going to thrive under that pressure. He likes the pressure. He likes people to be talking about him. So I don't necessarily think he's going to have a problem with it. Let's make it clear. If he thought it was going to be a problem, he wouldn't have done the interview a week before he went off to Portugal. He did it with the intention of creating some chaos going in. The flip side of that is, if he now goes to the World Cup and absolutely stinks it up, he's going to look like a moron.
Indeed. Kadish, you saw the interview. Your thoughts?
I saw clips.
Okay.
I was disappointed in. I don't think you can throw your club under the bus like that, basically. And so to me it was a distraction, and it's going to be like, even when Bruno Fernandes came in and the reception was a little frosted. It was blown out of proportion. Yeah. Right, and it's going to always be at the forefront of everybody's mind. And so instead of talking about the chances that Portugal has of going far and his last hurrah in a World Cup, because there's no way he's making 2026. Right. Right. If we're talking about what his mentality is going to be because of the interview he did about Manchester United. So as I said, I'm not his biggest fan, but it was disappointing from my perspective. It wasn't necessary.
If I think about it more, I don't necessarily think it will be a problem or a distraction for him, but I could see it being a problem and distraction for Portugal and other players, because as Kadesh said, he came into that dressing. There's a clip of him coming to the dressing room and meeting Bruno Fernandes. I personally saw it and just moved on. I didn't think there was anything in it. But then I went on Twitter and everyone was like, Bruno blanks Ronaldo. Yeah. Really? It didn't look that way to me, but I could see that, let's say the first game comes and neither of them score. The first question they're going to ask is the relationship between you and Ronaldo frosty right now? You guys didn't seem to be passing to each other. Yeah. Those kind of things do come into and those are the type of things you don't want in a tournament setting. You want the team togetherness. You want everyone on one clear agenda with one main focus. So if it's going to be a distraction, it won't necessarily be for Ronaldo. It might be for the rest of the team, though.
Interesting view there. And, of course, the other team in the group, a team that faced them in the round of 16 of the last World Cup, Uruguay, the likes of Suarez, Cavani, perhaps the last hurrah for them.
It has to be. Yeah. I mean, growing up, like when I started watching football and getting older and understanding the game more, it was about Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, these Diego Godin.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's one of those. I was like, who is this?
He's in the World Cup squad?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocked. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Right. So
I thought you retired.
I thought so too. Okay. So I seen these players up again for Uruguay. It's another aging squad that they haven't transitioned well into bringing in youth players. So I don't think it's going to be the Uruguay of old, but I am definitely looking forward to the Uruguay-Ghana game. That's the game I'm looking forward to.
The Asamoah Gyan derby.
Wow. And speaking about Ghana, Stefan, are they Africa's best chance of a round of 16 berth? Are they the best chance of an African team moving on?
I mean, I think if you're Ghana, you look at this group and you think, we have a shot here. Portugal is one of those teams where I think they have a lot of talent and they've been badly managed. I think I said that earlier. Yeah. I don't necessarily like the Ronaldo Bruno tandem in the Portugal national. I don't like it for Manchester United. It's never worked for Portugal as well. So it is a Portugal team that you could think maybe I can pick something off of them here, especially if there's distractions. Uruguay, as Kadish pointed out, they're not in the best shape. They are still the same team that they were a couple of years ago. And I mean that in two ways. One, they're going to play the same way Uruguay has always played. They're going to be defensively strong. They're going to look to hit the counter, get Cavani running. I don't know how he still can run at his age, but he manages to motor around. And they're going to play that way. If you're Ghana, you're going to think to yourself, if we play our game, our energetic style, we can take something from these teams.
Absolutely. And that's certainly the sort of message that the coaching staff will have on them. We have a few more minutes to wrap up the show. We really appreciate for you guys to tune in, and we're going to show you a graphic in terms of the fixtures to come for tomorrow. We'll get a brief feedback from our panelists just before we wrap up today's discussion. These are the games on for tomorrow, and the times that you see on your screen, that is Jamaica time. So the second game of the World Cup, the Three Lions of England versus the Persian Kings of Iran, 8 a.m. Jamaica time. At 11 o'clock, it's Senegal, the African champions, come up against the Netherlands, the team that has been to 3 World Cup finals, lost all 3 World Cup finals. And finally, at 2 o'clock, the United States, 1930 World Cup semi-finalists, and Wales, 1958 World Cup quarter-finalists, their first World Cup in 64 years. Stefan, which of the 3 games are you looking forward to the most?
England, actually.
Really?
I'm actually looking towards the England game. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I've gone out there and I've made a big talk. I do think England, despite what everyone says, I think they've picked a very sensible squad. I think Southgate has managed his team well for years, and I expect them to do well in this tournament. So I'll be up bright and early to watch England comfortably win tomorrow morning.
Wow, comfortably win.
Yeah.
I would love that. Kadish, that's your game to watch tomorrow of the 3?
No, it's not. I'm actually looking forward to the USA-Wales game.
Interesting.
I think in terms of competitiveness, I think that is going to be the most competitive game of the 3. So England's going to win, Netherlands going to win. It's not so much an outright saying of USA or Wales is going to win. So I'm interested in that game.
And an interesting script, Bale just winning the title in the MLS in the States.
Coming up clutch. I don't think there's a more clutch football player in the world than Gareth Bale. He just seems to come up in these big moments, especially for Wales. He usually goes into tournaments and he delivers for them.
Yeah, certainly has been a key one. And of course, Stefan, you would have known Carlos Queiroz and the work he did at Real Madrid, and also being Sir Alex Ferguson's assistant. Yeah. It's going to take time to break them down, that Iranian team.
Yeah, for sure. But as I said, I've made a big talk with this England team. I definitely think they have a sensible squad. Good players are in good form at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of approach they go with. I expect him to be consistent throughout the tournament, and if that means a back 5, it means a back 5. I have no problems with that. But yeah, Queiroz, Iran, I think we know what they're going to do, and it's just for England to break them down. And they do have the players capable of breaking them down.
All right, thank you very much. So, folks, we really, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon for our post-game show for Qatar against Ecuador at the greatest show on earth. And thank you for watching Now Streaming Qatar. Everything you need to know about the tournament, previews, reviews, analysis, and updates from the greatest show on earth. Let's not forget as well to hit that subscribe button to 876 Stream Jamaica. You will see Kadish again tomorrow post-game as she gives her thoughts about the 3 games of the day, and you'll see Stefan later in the week as well. Thank you both very much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys as well for tuning back home. Join us again tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. We're going to break down the England versus Iran game and the other matches for the day as well. Thank you so much for watching on behalf of the entire production team, Jamal and Jev and everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.
876 Stream. Bless up.